Michael Jackson was halfway through Heal the World when a mother's desperate scream tore through Wembley Stadium. What he did next had never been done before in his entire career. It was August 22nd, 1992, in London. Michael was performing as part of his Dangerous World Tour at Wembley Stadium. Over 72,000 fans had packed into one night, many traveling from across Europe. He'd already electrified the crowd with Billie Jean, Black or White, and Thriller. Now, under a sea of swaying lighters, Michael stood center stage delivering his most personal song, Heal the World. But what none of those 72,000 people knew was that in the accessible seating section sat a 9-year-old girl who wasn't supposed to live to see her 10th birthday. Emma Carter was fighting a battle no child should ever face. The aggressive brain tumor that had been destroying her body for 18 months was finally winning. Her doctors at Great Ormond Street Hospital had given her family the devastating news. Less than 3 weeks to live. Her parents, Margaret and James, had made the impossible decision to take her out of the hospital for one final dream. Emma had been obsessed with Michael Jackson since she was 4 years old. Her hospital room walls were covered with posters. Even during radiation sessions, she would ask nurses to play Heal the World to help her breathe through the agony. 5 days earlier, Emma had whispered to her mother through oxygen tubes that she wanted Michael to know she loved him, that she wanted to give him her moonwalk book, where she drew pictures of them dancing together. James Carter, a London taxi driver, had spent every pound of their savings to secure accessible seats. Emma was so weak that James had to carry her from the car. She wore a sparkly white shirt mimicking Michael's smooth criminal look, a miniature black fedora, and a white scarf covering the hair she'd lost during chemotherapy. But here's something that would become crucial later that night. For the first 90 minutes, Emma was in pure heaven despite her pain. She was mouthing along to every word, her joy radiating like sunlight. Margaret kept checking Emma's oxygen levels, terrified the excitement might overwhelm her weakened lungs. Emma whispered to her mother that this was the best night of her whole life, her eyes shining despite the bruises covering her arms from endless needle pricks. When the opening chords of Heal the World began, Emma's entire face transformed with an energy that seemed medically impossible. This was her absolute favorite song, the one she'd been humming through surgeries, the one that made her believe in angels. Michael emerged wearing his iconic gold jacket, and the stadium erupted. He was 2/3 through the song, reaching the emotional climax where he always knelt down when it happened. From the accessible section, a woman's voice cut through 72,000 singing fans like lightning splitting the night sky. Margaret Carter was screaming with the desperation of a mother who had nothing left to lose, begging Michael to acknowledge her dying daughter who loved him so much. What nobody expected was what Michael did next. Michael Jackson stopped mid-note. He turned toward the accessible section, squinting through the blinding stage lights. His band gradually quieted. The 72,000-person crowd fell into complete silence as people realized something unprecedented was unfolding. Michael raised his hand, signaling his band to stop completely. His backing vocalists looked shocked. Michael never stopped during Heal the World. Never. Michael asked where the voice was coming from, his tone carrying through Wembley's sound system with that gentle quality the world rarely heard. Margaret stood and lifted Emma as high as her trembling arms could manage, calling out that her daughter was 9 years old and dying from a brain tumor, that doctors gave her 2 weeks left, that all she wanted was to see Michael perform, that she drew pictures of dancing with him even when she could barely hold a pencil. Wembley Stadium was now completely silent except for the hum of amplifiers. 72,000 people held their collective breath. Michael stood at the edge of the stage, looking up at this tiny girl wearing a miniature fedora, clearly fighting for every breath. What happened next stunned everyone in that legendary stadium. Michael asked her name with that gentle voice. Despite her weakness, Emma managed to call out her name and tell him she loved him, that she drew pictures of them moonwalking together. Those words from a dying 9-year-old hit Michael like a physical force. The artist, known for his mysterious persona, suddenly looked vulnerable, achingly real. Here's where the story takes an incredible turn. Michael turned to his tour manager and gave an order that shocked his entire crew. Bring them to the stage immediately. Within minutes, something unprecedented was happening. Michael's security team was escorting the Carter family through the crowd to the stage stairs. Emma was barely conscious, but she was awake enough to realize something miraculous was happening. When Michael Jackson lifted 9-year-old Emma Carter onto the Wembley Stadium stage, 72,000 people fell into a silence so profound you could hear individual hearts breaking. The sight of Michael kneeling down to be at eye level with an obviously dying little girl was so powerful, so raw that nobody knew how to process what they were witnessing. Michael told the crowd he wanted them to meet his friend Emma Carter, that she was 9 years old and fighting the bravest battle anyone could ever fight, that she drew pictures of them dancing together, that tonight Emma was going to help him finish the show. The stadium erupted, but it wasn't the usual screaming. It was respectful, emotional applause, the kind you hear when witnessing something sacred. Michael gently sat Emma on a stool at center stage. Despite everything stealing her life away, Emma looked out at 72,000 people and smiled the biggest smile her mother had seen in over a year. Michael announced that Emma had been drawing pictures of them moonwalking and asked if everyone wanted to see them finish Heal the World together. The magic that followed changed everything. As Michael began to sing Heal the World again, slower, more intimate, he took Emma's tiny hand in his. She couldn't dance, but Michael swayed gently with her. He took off his iconic white sequined glove and placed it on Emma's small hand. It reached past her elbow, but she looked at it like it was made of starlight. The sight of Michael Jackson and a dying 9-year-old girl swaying together, her tiny hand in his glove, was so heartbreaking that there wasn't a dry eye among 72,000 people. Grown men were openly sobbing. Emma, despite her weakness, began singing along. Her small voice blended with Michael's in a way that was both beautiful and devastating. The entire stadium began singing quietly, respectfully, turning Heal the World into a gentle prayer for Emma Carter. 72,000 strangers were singing as a lullaby for a dying little girl. When the song ended, Michael took off his black fedora, signed it with a gold marker, and placed it on Emma's head, telling her it was hers now, that every time she wore it, she should remember she was stronger than she knew, and she was never alone. But wait, the story doesn't end there. As Michael prepared to help Emma back to her parents, the little girl pulled out her white book filled with pencil drawings of her and Michael dancing under stars, moonwalking together. She told him it was for him, so he could remember her when she was in heaven. Michael Jackson broke down crying right there on stage in front of 72,000 people. The mysterious artist who never showed vulnerability was on his knees, hugging a dying 9-year-old girl while tears streamed down his face. Michael told her she wasn't going anywhere, that she was going to fight this, and that he was going to help her. Michael finished the concert with Emma's white book tucked against his heart, and every song seemed dedicated to the little girl now back in her mother's arms. He kept looking over at her, blowing kisses during Man in the Mirror. Backstage was unhurried. He made time, left gifts, including one of his rhinestone fedoras, and promised to visit Emma while she was in the hospital. Here comes the incredible part that nobody could have predicted. Michael kept his promise. For the next 3 weeks, Michael visited Emma at Great Ormond Street Hospital every other day. He would arrive late at night in disguises, sit by her bed and sing acoustic versions of his songs, show her moonwalk videos, and read her stories about children who changed the world. But Emma Carter didn't die in 2 weeks or 2 months, or even 2 years. Something about that night seemed to give Emma a surge of strength doctors couldn't explain. After that Wembley concert, her oncologist, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, said years later, something changed in Emma's neurological responses. The tumor stopped growing. Her body began responding to treatments that hadn't worked before. Medically, she couldn't explain it, but that child's will to live became superhuman after meeting Michael. Emma lived 11 impossible years, lessons Michael paid for, birthdays he never missed, and seats close enough to see his eyes at every performance within 500 miles of London. During those years, Emma became like a little sister to Michael. She even joined him on stage 2 more times, including his July 1997 History World Tour nights at Wembley, where she wore the original fedora and glove while they performed Heal the World together again. Margaret Carter said years later that after that night, Emma wasn't afraid of dying anymore. She knew she was loved not just by her family, but by Michael and by all those people who sang with her. It gave her such power to fight. When Emma finally passed away in 2004 at age 20, she was wearing the black fedora Michael had given her that magical August night. In her hands was the sequined glove, still sparkling. Beside her bed was the white book, returned by Michael's estate with a note saying Emma had given it to him in 1992, that it changed his life, and now it should be with her forever. Michael was devastated by Emma's death. He canceled 3 performances and flew to London for her funeral, where he performed Heal the World, using words Emma had written in that white book years ago. The Carter family later revealed that Michael had been secretly paying for Emma's medical treatments for all 11 years. He'd also established a music therapy program at Great Ormond Street Hospital in Emma's name. The Emma Carter Healing Through Music Foundation, established by Michael in 1994, has now helped over 25,000 children with terminal illnesses across 40 countries. Michael never wanted publicity for this. Margaret revealed he did it because Emma changed him, showing him that fame wasn't about stadiums, but about touching one soul at a time. Every major artist who performs at Wembley hears this story, and something changes in how they approach their performances. People who were there that night say it changed them forever. They went to see Michael Jackson perform but witnessed something far greater. When Michael put that dying little girl on stage, when 72,000 strangers sang like a prayer for her life, they understood what humanity could be at its best. The bootleg recordings of that night are among the most treasured Michael Jackson recordings in existence, not because of sound quality, but because they captured the moment when Michael revealed his true heart. And what was revealed was pure, unconditional love. Michael Jackson stopped his show for Emma Carter, but really, Emma Carter saved Michael's soul by reminding him what performing is really about. Michael could have ignored Margaret's plea. He could have finished his song and moved on. Instead, he chose compassion over convention. He chose human connection over professional perfection. And in doing so, he gave a dying little girl 11 more years of life, 72,000 people a memory they carry forever, and all of us a reminder that fame means nothing if we don't use it to help others. Emma's story proves that love truly is stronger than fear, that music can heal, and that sometimes one moment of compassion can ripple through decades. If Emma's courage and Michael's heart touched you the way it touched those 72,000 people at Wembley, share this story with someone who needs reminded that compassion scales. Drop a comment telling us about a time you witnessed true compassion, or share your favorite memory of Michael's humanity. And if you believe every child deserves their moment in the spotlight, hit that subscribe button. We're diving into more untold stories of music legends who use their fame to lift others up. Remember what Emma taught Michael that night. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest miracles.